Welcome to the Urbanone 2018 show with your host, Wayne Johnson, the talk show dedicated to uplifting and motivating individuals from all walks of life. Each week, we have the privilege of hosting incredible guests who provide incredible insights on a diverse range of topics, from local influencers to esteemed regional and national figures. They will share their experiences and wisdom to ignite positive change in our community. Get ready for another captivating episode of the Urbanone 2018 show with your host, Wayne Johnson. Let's embark on this journey of inspiration together.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of Urbanone 2018. I'm your host, Wayne Johnson, and we have a very special guest here with us today, Dr. Gregory McPherson. You know, he's originally from the great city of Atmore, Alabama, distinguished composer, conductor, educator, renowned for his significant contribution to gospel and into modern music. And so with no further ado, let me tell you something. I'm so excited to introduce my classmate, my friend, Dr. Gregory McPherson. Good to see you, classmate.
Sure enough, man. Likewise. God is truly amazing. Thank God for this moment that he will bring us together, especially on this kind of platform.
Yes.
Very humbled. Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Could you take a moment and introduce yourself to our audience, please?
Sure. I'm a homeboy. Trust me. I grew up right in Atmore, right on Park Drive. We'll walk down 8th Avenue. Now it's MLK, but walk down quite often. I don't drive. I don't see well enough to drive, so I kind of walked everywhere. I had some high school buddies, Keith Lambert, Hank, George Mosby, Wayne Johnson, Charles Willis, Bob Hubbard, Farrell Johnson, Farrell Montgomery. And we kind of walk. When none of us had cars, even when they had cars, when George and George Mosby, we called him Darrell. When George and Charles Willis, we call him Bubba. When they finally got cars, they had, we were doing different scenarios, so they would drive us around. But for the most part, it was hard for me to keep a little girlfriend because I have no car. Where we going?
Where we going?
How you gonna get there? Well,
how we gonna get there? Yeah, I know exactly what you mean because George and myself, we used to hang out also, man. And I tell you, coming up from a small town environment and seeing what God has done in our lives and brought us to the place where we are. I mean, it's awesome sometimes. And I'm just like, Lord, is it really happening? Or we just want to thank him as well for taking care of us, bringing us here, still in good health and strength. And it's just an awesome opportunity to be here today. So we want to get into our interview, and we got about 4 questions. And the 4 questions that we're going to begin to ask my classmate is here, and so we want to talk a little bit about the reflection behind the artist, and that's a great YouTube link that we have up on the screen right now, and you can go there, and we'll have it in at the bottom of the interview as well, that you can go there and see some of the great contributions that and the things that Greg has contributed to society. And I know a lot of the things that I saw in the on that documentary was about the youth, being there, reaching out, giving back. And so I'm so excited about that as well. And so let's get into our questions. And the first one is, how did you get started? And who are some of your influences and the most memorable and important moments in your journey? And then words of wisdom and encouragement to the next generation. So let's go to our first question. How did you get started?
Well, I'm a son of Atmore. And I can't say that when I think of all the shoulders that myself and so many others stand on, when you think of people like Marvin Collins, my classmate, Don McNeil, Lou Eichner, they're all great in sports. So many others, some of the educators, of course, my Uncle Bill, Willie J. Grissett, cousin Ulysses McBride, two godmothers, Mavis Torrance and Tessa Lyons, and then my other godmother, Patricia Mary, Patricia Williams, goddaddy just laid to rest, Bishop Willie Williams, Dr. Willie Williams. They were excellent models, role models for me. Of course, all the folks in my community, my parents, and particularly my dad, Elder Van McPherson, Dr. Van McPherson. My grandparents, the McPhersons, Randolph and Delia, and Calvin and Danny Grissett. Just kind of knowing that while I probably was not, I was kind of precocious. I was always real busy, always nosy, wanted to know about this and know about that and why this worked this way. And so I was surrounded by so many wonderful people who modeled excellence. Everybody from, people who were just in the mix, my Uncle Mert, Uncle Murtis and Aunt Helen, and all of them, Uncle Arthur, we call him Uncle Boone, and so many people in the community who saw persons like myself. Most people don't know I'm visually impaired. I'm legally blind, so I literally have no sight in my left eye, and the vision in my right eye is literally 2200. And thank God that it's stabilized,
Yeah.
But I'm a homeboy.
Amen.
Thank very grateful and thankful that God, caused people to notice me and recognize that my interest in music and education. I learned, my grandmother Danny taught me French when I was probably like 4 or 5 years old. I started learning foreign languages. My mother, Margie, and my Uncle Bill also loved languages. My mother loved what we call the Romance languages, like Italian and French, and Spanish and stuff like that. My Uncle Bill was a little bit more radical. He loved German, so much so that many of his daughters, all of his kids, basically have German names. My cousin Squeeter, Frasquita, which is German.
Yeah, I remember her. Yeah.
And all of the rest of them, Shita, Vita, Johannes, Zena.
I remember.
And then, of course, my cousin Derek Kittrick. These are all German names, so he was a little bit more rugged. My brother said, "I'm so glad he didn't name one of us. You'd probably be Siegfried, and I'd probably be some other." And then I credit my name to my Aunt Bernice, we call her Aunt Toot. She actually named me for my parents.
Wow.
And so, I loved music. When I was a boy, my Uncle Bill when I was a toddler, my Uncle Bill was the choir director there. At Escambia County High School, Escambia County Training School, before we integrated the schools. And he was so phenomenal. He would come home from school, and his piano was still in my grandmother and grandfather's house, and he would play, and I would watch him play. I would hide and peek around, and as soon as he would leave out that door, I would peek to see if he was far enough away from me, and I would run up to the piano and try and imitate whatever I heard him do, and I would do it in other places.
Wow.
And then we grew up. We call ourselves the Baptist Costa Methodists.
Baptist Costa Methodist.
We grew up in the Baptist Church, the Pentecostal, we call it Holiness Church back then, and the Methodist Church. So we had influences on everything. So wherever he was, I tried to follow him and others. And it was just, it was amazing. And then they introduced me to my band director, my Uncle Kenneth, my father's brother, was a drummer, and he had gone to Alabama State University. He and Nate Dennis. And of course, my band director, Mr. Curtis Harris, they are all going to Alabama State. So I was influenced by them as far as drums and percussion is concerned, because I most people remember me primarily for drums and percussion. You know, God
Wow.
had blessed me
Hmm.
literally. You remember this in my senior year in high school, I became the number one drummer in the state of Alabama. You know, by God's grace and favor. You know,
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yes, very, 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 very powerful.
yeah,
And so let's talk a little bit. I was looking at some of the stuff you did. I sort of like did a little. I went to Chat GPT and I said, well, I told Chat GPT, I said, hey, write up me a little bio about Dr. Greg A. McPherson from the great city of Atmore, Alabama. And so it gave me a little outline. So at 14, you did your first recording,
yeah.
and then at 19, you did something significant as well. Talk about those two those two moments when you were 14 and 19.
So, my daddy had jokes. They all knew that I could, basically I played very well by ear. I mean, I could read music extremely well, but I also played by ear, which is a gift that got given to me because I grew up
Right.
playing in the church, in the AOH church, and at Second Mount Triumph. I would play out at uh, I can't remember the name of church now. Out on Highway 21 in a
Oh,
come to
Pleasant Hill. Or
yeah,
I
Up
mean, I know
Pleasant.
your dad pastored at Faith Tabernacle. That's
Yeah,
his. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, but I was at Pleasant Hill, and my experience, my growth spurt came when I was playing at Pleasant Hill.
Oh, yeah.
There were four people in the choir. There were three sisters and a brother.
Right.
And I tell everybody to this day, I learned more about music, and the whole black music experience in terms of everything homegrown from them.
Yeah.
And it prepared me as well as playing for the youth choir over at Second My Tribe with Mrs. Archery. You
Oh,
know,
yeah. That's my mother-in-law. Yeah, Miss Thelma Ultra. Yeah,
it's Miss Thelma Archery.
yeah.
And for every reason, I ended up Pastor Willie Hawthorne was in a group. I can't
Yeah,
remember the name of the group at the
yeah,
time,
yeah.
but they needed a keyboard player. So I would play for them. I was no more like 12, 13. So I would play for them every now and then.
Yeah,
But I was also blessed by Deacon Leroy Knight. They
yeah.
needed some help. They were getting ready for their record, the Southern Echoes.
Right.
And we
Yeah.
went to Dothan. We went to a place called Dothan, and they
Don't
did their
Yeah.
they were doing a record down there, and
First recording. Yeah.
I was not able to go with them, but they put me in a place where I helped prepare them
Wow.
for their first record. I got a lot. Me, little knucklehead 14-year-old preparing
Oh,
these.
14. So that was your first gig, and and God was bringing you into that. And let's go back. You said that you were gifted; you could play by ear, and I would. We got like TJ, Timothy McReynolds, and
Mm,
he's gifted. Josh Hill, they're
mm,
gifted. They play by ear as well.
yeah.
And I think brother Quinn Fry, he's a little up in age, but he plays
Mm,
the trumpet. So he
yeah.
plays by ear as well. And so
Yeah.
here, all these people are gifted by God, just as yourself, and then begin to take you to the place where you never thought you would accomplish what you have accomplished. And so when I was watching that reflection, come on now, the reflection behind the artist, and I was like, wow. I said, man, Greg has been around the world, and
Hmm.
he is what influence. And when I saw that board that y'all were working with, I was like, man, come on, man,
Hmm.
you gotta really know what you're doing. And
Hmm.
so we're so proud of you, because what I'm starting to do is go back and bring in people that had done some great things in Atmore, because we want to let this interview be a tribute to you as well as to our youth, and to let them know that Atmore has brought and produced some great citizens, community leaders, and people that have done a lot of great things and traveled
Hmm.
the world. Man,
Yeah.
all right, talk about that 19-year-old. When you went from 14, that was your first one. Then you did something significant at 19.
Well, the transition between that was certainly I was blessed to work with the Southern Echoes. Ironically, it was the same time that I started competing for Allstate, you know.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And my Uncle Bill had me in a distance
You
running
keep talking
program.
about Uncle Bill. Explain who Uncle Bill is. That's Mr. Grist that lived on MLK and
Yeah,
now,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
WJ Grissett. Yeah,
WJ,
WJ.
there you go, WJ Grissett. And
Yeah.
so that way I just had to break that down because people are gonna be watching. They come on, who is
Who's
Uncle
Uncle
Bill?
Bill?
Yeah, so we know live right across the street, right. Him and Mr. McBride are neighbors, and he was
Yeah,
the principal at the Escambia County training school.
yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Grissom, he paddled me a few times in
Oh
my
no,
in my
I got that heat, man. Trust me. I uh and the sad part about that is as soon as he tied me up, the word traveled fast. So by the time I got to my grandmama's house, she was waiting on me, and then my mom and dad were waiting on me afterwards. So you know, you would think that his arms reached all the way down there because they all got me. I knew real quick that back then you could not talk back to people, even if they were right. I mean, even if you were right and wrong, there was a way to do it. So they would call assassin a grown person back then. Boy, you talk about get some serious heat, and
Hey, but look
everybody
here.
knew it.
Hey, but before we go to that 19, but your granddad, didn't he have the store right across from Robert
Yeah,
Singleton right there? Yeah.
yeah. Uncle, Granddaddy Calvin. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I
yeah.
picked cotton. So look now, my beginnings are very humble. I picked cotton for my granddaddy. I picked cucumbers. I picked
Wow.
potatoes.
Yeah, I've been there
Uh,
too.
and you would be in the potato field, and as soon as the tractor would turn the potatoes over, you had to really kind of be very quick in picking those potatoes up because
Yep, yep,
otherwise they would
yep,
go
yep,
back under. I would
yeah.
have potato dust so thick on me, man, I was a whole nother color because you were hot and sweaty, and that dust was sticking on you. You was as yellow
Hey
as
man, look
those
at it.
potatoes.
That's where I got my start from too. Cucumbers, potato field
Man,
corn, pulling corn, because
uh,
that's how we made our living. And so kids
mm,
today, we would work all week, and when we got finished, we may get a quarter, or a nickel, or a dime, and that's what
yeah,
we got. And mom and dad, them, my
man,
grandmom got all the
mm-mm.
money because they had to take care of so many in the family,
Yeah,
and
oh
yeah, and
please,
so here it was, and we were able. You had two pair of pants and one pair of shoes, and as soon as you got home, you had to get out of those, and it's just a tribute to what God has did in our lives and
oh
brought us to the
please.
place where we are.
Yeah, I
And then
give away suits. I give away clothes. You
yeah,
understand what I'm
because
saying?
yeah, I know it, man. So
Mm.
talk about the 19-year-old, that 19-year-old that you were, that some 19-year-old that's going to listen to this interview, want to start his career in the music industry. Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, by that time, I had been blessed to do a lot of different recordings.
Yeah,
I was saying my Uncle Bill started me on a training program called Sherwood School of Music. Uh, I had something that I had no idea. I had a powerful thing in my hand. I completed their training program, and I didn't realize my Uncle Bill had me on the fast track. They had something called an artist diploma
yeah,
program. Yeah, and artist diploma is almost like a doctoral degree. I had no idea. You
wow,
understand what I'm saying? As a
yeah,
15, I got my artist diploma as a 15-year-old. I started teaching. My parents let me start teaching, and I felt really bad. I just assumed that my dad was all right with, so I went out and they found 3 students from me. I got 3. I had never discussed it with my dad that I was going to teach piano at the house. My dad said, "Boy, are you ready?" Blah 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 blah. He said, "I know you got this and that, but you haven't." And so I realized I needed to really have that discussion out of respect with my father, because it's his, that's his and my mama house.
yeah.
I was his child, but as a result of that, I ended up doing a couple of things. Because I got my artist diploma, uh, when I entered Alabama State University, I turned down a lot of scholarships. I had 19 scholarships, so 19 is significant. Hello.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm sorry, I got you. Yeah, let me remove
Yes.
that. Yeah,
So
yeah.
I know I'm good. I had 19 scholarships that were offered to me from a lot of major institutions, Alabama State, Alabama A&M. Barney Smart even came down to my grandmama's house and
Wow.
rode me around in the A&M car and all that kind of stuff. Everybody was just so convinced that I was going to go there. or go to FAMU, because the folks at FAMU reached to me, and they all had great scholarships. But my
Yeah.
band director, Mr. Curtis Harris, I loved him. And between him and my father, my Uncle Bill, I was going to follow whatever they said. And I wanted to be in the band at Alabama State University. I just loved what they were doing.
Yeah.
And I was very blessed to go and see them on several occasions as a young child, both in Montgomery and Mobile and other places. And my Uncle Kenneth was in a band that, they were featured in 1967. They actually did the halftime show for the New York Jets.
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
and he was in that band. Him and Nate Dennis. They were in that band.
Yeah, Mr. Nate Dennis. Yeah.
Yes, and
Wow.
so at 19, I had several things that really just kind of rushed together very quickly. One, I was asked to start writing music for what will eventually become a PBS station for
Wow.
cable.
Yeah.
And I did my first film as a composer. That same year, Alabama
Wow.
State University needed some help. My friend, best friend, Dr. James Oliver, who is the director of bands there now, he and I had become, they changed our status. We were as work study students, and they put us on as instructors, part-time instructors. And so I taught private piano, a little percussion, and music appreciation. I taught music appreciation on Saturday mornings. And Dr. Oliver taught private percussion. Mr. Free, our professor, Vantona Free, had grown his percussion studio to almost 40-something students. That's too much. That's too many students. That's not enough hours in a week to teach a student.
Right, yeah.
And then playing, he had other classes he was responsible for, like music appreciation and conducting and percussion ensemble. He was doing marching bands. So they hired me and Dr. Oliver. I was my first taste at really being a college professor at 19. And
at 19, man, come on.
And I had some students. Alabama State had a little community relationship, so they would bring students from the community who were either in middle school, high school, or in college. And I taught that music appreciation class and some percussion students for Professor Free. And I cannot tell you, man, just how humbling that was. And see, by this time, God had strengthened my hand. When I was 15, I started touring Europe. I toured Europe and, Russia and the northwestern tip of Africa. And then that went on to several other global tours over the years, to Asia, Latin and South America.
Wow.
To the Orient, to Australia, to places like New Zealand and Canada and, South America, Central America, all of that,
Yep.
So that was a critical turning point. I always wanted to be a teacher.
Right.
But I also wanted to, make a contribution to music and performance, and all that kind of stuff, my senior year in high school, I became the #1 drummer in the state of Alabama, competing in All-State. And because of my visual impairment, I still have so many articles. I had to get really close. I had to make my own music stands. Had a music stand that I made, had a gooseneck to it. It would put over.
You were improvising, huh?
I had to, I had to do all of that, and they still tease me about that to this day from Alabama State. My classmates. I had to do the same thing when I started studying the pipe organ because I played the pipe organ. I had to get them to make a lift that would fit over the top of the regular music thing, and then pull it out so I could at least see the music. And it was so funny, man. I had to learn. God gave me a unique gift. I began as a young child to garner a tremendous memory. So I would play one hand and memorize it, and I got it down. I could usually play it and memorize it one time through, And while I was playing one hand, like the right hand, I would go back and read the left hand while playing the right hand from memory. All that kind of stuff, man. Boy.
Oh man, that's awesome. A genius,
And
here it is.
see,
A genius
I ain't
and
paying no attention. I'm like,
yeah,
because I knew that if I wasn't ready, if I wasn't prepared,
yeah,
I kind of felt like music and education was my only way out.
way out.
I dabble a lot in electronics. That's why you see me a lot of times with those large mixing consoles and stuff like that, because I
Yeah.
have helped to design a lot of them and design the software for a lot of synthesizers and stuff. And my daddy thought that if I wasn't going to do nothing, I was going to be an electrician. Well, I would plug
So
up
you can
stuff
make some
and
money. Oh
wire
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
and just
We
blow
got
all the
physical
fuses in
labor.
the
Yeah.
house. Everything was just, you hear a loud pop and all the lights went off, the whole house. My dad would say, "Boy, what's it done?" I'm
Wow.
serious.
I got you. So let's go into our second question. But I mean, we really is the third question because we talked about 14 and 19, 15. So who are some of your influences? And I saw you in that. Let's go to this little clip. Let's show a little bit of the clip if I can bring it in, and I could bring it. Let me see. Can I bring it in?
Sure.
And I could bring the clip in, and that way we can play just a little bit of it.
Well, hi.
Wow.
And,
1985. Wow.
Wow.
Mm.
Man, I tell you, awesome.
Yeah. So
Talk
that
a
was
little
my
bit
Herbie
about
Hancock.
talk
Yeah, that was
talk.
my Herbie Hancock. I'm sorry. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
talk a little bit about that experience on a platform like that. Coming from a small town, Atmore, and then your expectations were you never thought you would be in a place like that. And some of our youth right now here in the small city of Atmore, and there because I'm gonna make some shorts and reels from this interview and begin to post it and
Oh yeah.
give it to some of the youth to encourage them that we have a person here, Dr. Greg McPherson, that were able to perform some of those things. And that's
Yeah.
so talk about that moment, how it felt doing that, and so we can kind of relate to our youth a little bit.
Well, that was my first year at Berklee College of Music. Ironically, in high school, Berkeley made me a little offer, to consider coming there. Ironically, I'm not ironically, I turned it down because I was so dead set on going to Alabama State. I had people from Juilliard to inquire, Juilliard School of Music, and these are top tier, institutions in the world, University of Alabama, Troy. And I think that because so many people had that, even we had a band director back then that was assistant to Mr. Harris named Vernon Townsend, Mr. Townsend, and even Jacksonville State University. But I turned down the scholarship to Berkeley, and I knew about Berkeley. I knew a lot of the people who had gone there. I knew about Quincy Jones, and decided to go to Alabama State. Ironically, 9 years later, as God would have it, I ended up still teaching at Berklee College of Music as a professor.
Wow.
So that was my first year as a professor there. I had two extraordinary groups. I had the Quincy Jones Orchestra. I was the inaugural conductor
Quincy Jones.
and music director for the Quincy Jones Orchestra at Berklee College of Music.
Wow.
And I had that particular group, which was, we would call it a commencement group. I had the Herbie Hancock big band, which They were dedicated to doing the music of people like Herbie Hancock, that band, and then the Quincy Jones Orchestra. Quincy Jones had such a vast body of work, and it
Wow.
was my job to always prepare the music, either get scores and do whatever he had and put together the orchestra according to the scores. Or a lot of times, if I wanted to do certain music, I would
Yeah.
just listen to the records and the recordings and literally write out what all those parts were: the violins, all of the strings, the horns, the percussion. Would train a lot of the vocalists, and I had a group as well called the Berkeley Super Singers, which were 18 singers. And these are some of these people now are world famous, like Layla Hathaway and Diana Krall, and Paula Cole. I mean, it's people like that who were in that group. Robin Smalls, she was Robin Harris during that time, and so many others. But that was during the performance. They edited that down to a basically a 2-minute clip, but that performance was taken from a 55-minute tribute to Herbie Hancock. And what I'll do is I'll send you kind of a link that has all of the different concerts and things that are kind of spelled out in their entirety, that you can also share. They're in public domain, and they're in a place now where everybody can go out and see the performances. But that was a very humbling moment for me because I was not the one that everybody thought. Uh, while a lot of people knew, just by God's grace, that I would be successful, they never thought that I would end up at a place like Berklee College of Music. When I
Wow.
graduated from Alabama State, uh, they were trying to send me to Hollywood then. And then I went on to the university. I became the first Black composer in residence at Washington State University in Pullman, Washington. So when I left Alabama State, I went out there and wrote a musical called "We're Gonna Have a Baby," which was a Christmas thing, and then wrote a ballet while I was out there. And
Wow.
then went on, and the University of South Florida hired me as, again, their first Black composer in residence. So I wrote for the theater program and the dance program, but they had also given me an opportunity to get my master's degree, and I owe a debt of gratitude to two gentlemen,
To do.
Dr. Nathaniel B. Hill and then Dr. John Smith, who was the associate dean of the College of Fine Arts. And Dr. Smith just took care of me just like one of his children. Both of them, ironically, are still living. And they saw to it that they treated me with dignity and respect. I had to, of course, hustle to stay in the mix, but it was through those two gentlemen that God opened the floodgate of everything. That's where I started writing for Lionel Hampton and the Pointer Sisters and George Benson, and
Oh
got my
man.
work with Sarah Vaughan and Miles Davis, all these people,
Wow.
the Florida Mass Choir, Milton Biggums and Art Jones. I mean, just so many people, all of the major symphony orchestras, all of that just came resting at my feet. And when I ended up at Berkeley, it was God's hand. I had come back to Alabama State to teach that year
Wow.
from 84, 85, after having been gone since 1980, because I graduated from Alabama State in 1980.
Wow.
And so when I joined Berkeley's faculty, it shocked everybody. I did not have the best time at Alabama State. Sometimes you have to know when to go home, and
Yeah.
sometimes you have to know when to go other places. But I believe that
Right.
everything that God ordains in our lives, we're supposed to grow from it,
Yeah.
and not only go through it, but also grow through it. And I was at a time where I was homeless, having to sleep in my office or wherever I could, all kinds of craziness like that.
Right.
The university messed up my contract. There was a lot of political stuff going on, and I stuck with it. And
Wow.
my arriving at Berklee College of Music was nothing short of God's miracles in my life. And I have so many stories like that I can tell you that one leads right to the other. And in the
Wow.
midst of that, you know, it was Mr. Hampton who recommended me for the job at Berkeley, along with one of my other private teachers named George Russell. George had been at New England Conservatory, and he just saw in me, a whole nother light. And he wrote me into his Fulbright Fellowship and Guggenheim Fellowship, so I wouldn't have to worry about paying for lessons to study composition and conducting and all that kind of
Wow.
stuff. So
Wow.
I'm a little emotional now because I realized that was a
A
huge
moment.
turning point, because you
Yeah,
have people like,
I feel you, man. I feel you. I feel you.
yeah,
Yeah, let's take a little short commercial break,
mhm.
and the break we're gonna talk is about my second book that I wrote, Understanding God's Call, and I think
Oh yes,
that would
it's
be something great that we could go there.
yeah,
Then we'll come back and say, hey, man. So let's take a break here.
yeah.
Have you been looking for clarity and discernment about God's calling on your life? Understanding God's Call, Follow Your Calling, written by Wayne Johnson, will help you walk in your calling to follow God's will and carry out your ministry service with ease and confidence. This book is filled with encouragement, inspiration, and direction. You can find Understanding God's Call, Follow Your Calling by Wayne Johnson on WJMstore.com or Amazon.com.
Wow, welcome back. Welcome back. I'm your host, Wayne Johnson, and special guest, Dr. Gregory McPherson, my classmate, a native from Atmore, grew up here and extraordinary, like to say he producer, educator, composer, and some of the things that he has done, traveled the world, opportunities have come to him and God has kept him and motivated him and exalted him. And he was talking before the break about the lows of his career and that he hung in there, that he was able. Sometimes he was there sleeping in his car or whatever, but God's hand was still upon his life. And we just want to say to some young person that's trying to start your career, you may go through a difficult moment. We all been there. I have some stories I can talk about, my struggles as well. But here it is, God took care of this man of God because his lineage in genealogy, when he first started out, he said, I started in the church. Come on now.
Yeah, sure enough.
Boy,
I'm
I
still in
started
the
in the
church.
church,
Hey,
man. Where did you
I
start? I
I'm
started in the
still in the
church.
church. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
still in the church. Yeah,
man. Wow. Awesome. And
yeah,
so he was getting a little emotional. And so those things make you emotional because you're still, after so long, you're still tender toward what God has done in your life. And you're
mhm.
still grateful that that it was nobody but God that brought you and promoted you. You
Sure
know it
enough.
wasn't you. You know it wasn't your education. You know it wasn't nobody, but the grace and the mercy of
Sure
God that
enough.
opened those doors and put you in all of those places. And
Yeah,
being the first, being trained, being educated, and God giving you the skill set and the knowledge, and like you said, the things that you had to overcome. Wow, awesome.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
let's talk about the most memorable and important moment in your journey. Talk about that.
yeah. I think. Well, let me say this to every young person out there: make no mistake about it. You have to have a relationship with God. I'm in the music industry. I'm also in higher education. Higher education is political. You know, higher education is just as political as corporate America is. Um, and in the music industry, of course, we're in a time where people are doing everything they can to try and figure out where the music industry is going and what's going on, you know. But to every young person and those of us who are not so, you have to have your own personal relationship with God. And this is the preacher side of my family because there's so many preachers and evangelists and, prophetic utterances that come through all these people. What God has for you, it is for you. But you have to put yourself in a place where you are obedient to God. If God is telling you you have to do this, even if that means get up and move. The year that I was homeless, I had the opportunity to come home and get a job to teach, and God kept quickening my spirit about staying the course because I was supposed to learn a greater lesson. There was a greater purpose. And ironically, I ended up working a lot in my volunteer time, doing a lot of ministry and homelessness and human trafficking, all that kind of stuff, just so that we would know how to talk to people and how to rescue people, how to deal with people who are having global issues and stuff where people coming through substance abuse, and
Mm,
all kinds of mental illness. And
yeah.
so, as an artist or as a budding, whatever it is, You have to understand, number one, your calling is never for you. It's God using you for a greater purpose, for His infinite
Man,
will
come
and
on,
His
come on
divine
now,
purpose.
come
And
on.
if you ever get confused about that, the reason that there's so much confusion in music entertainment now, even in contemporary Christian music and gospel, is because the artists are now beginning to believe it's all about them and not all about God, and it's still about
Wow.
salvation.
Yeah,
You still have to work to make sure that your soul salvation has been worked out on this side. As much as I believe in our Bible, I don't think every one of us is going to have a thief being nailed to the cross by Jesus. A lot of us not going to have that moment. You know, uh,
wow,
so
man, I
I'm
tell you,
I'm
wow,
telling you,
yeah,
this brother has an extraordinary ministry, has a heart for young people, and has a
yeah,
heart for God's people. Period.
yeah,
And I tell anybody wherever you can go and you can get teaching. Now we have to be trained and taught at different levels. A person who can speak to one person can't speak to the others, but God calls
right,
us to speak to the masses of people regardless.
yeah,
And sometimes your ministry or your sermon is your walk. For
yeah,
me, I ended up when I was at Berkeley for a long time, but I ended up having to work with some secular artists along the way, the Pointer Sisters and George Benson, but I also
wow,
got the privilege of working with Reverend James Cleveland and the Hawkins
wow,
and, Walter and Edwin Tremaine Hawkins and Daryl Coley and Shirley Caesar, Pastor Shirley Caesar, and I mean on and on and on. The
wow,
Blind Boys of Alabama, the Mississippi Mass Choir, the Florida Mass Choir, Georgia Mass Choir. I mean, all of that, as well as just a whole lot of people. Yolanda Adams,
wow,
Tina and Erica, Mary, they're
wow,
young girls. I mean, and just on and on and on. Alita Adams, Marvin Sapp, my frat brother. I'm a Kappa, Marvin Sapp, and Byron Cage, and
Cage, come on, wow,
Smokey Norfolk, all of these people. So
man,
you have to get that part of your life together. What my daddy did for me, I had the opportunity to produce and write and work with one of the most phenomenal young people's group called the New Kids on the Block.
yeah, yeah, I
And
saw it's in that clip. It's
yeah,
yeah, it's in
and
that yeah, in your clip, yeah,
yeah, and I did a couple of things, major things with them. Number one of the biggest thing was to help them to get several number one records, but I also produced something called the Coca-Cola Classic Commercial, which has to this day been the number one ad as far as Coca-Cola is concerned. And this ad is over 30 some years old now, almost 35 years old, because it came out in 1990, 91. It came out in 91. Magic Summer, Magic Cans. Not a single ad has ever topped it, not Michael Jackson, not Backstreet Boys, none of the people, Luther,
yeah,
nobody. And
yeah,
I had to go out on the road with them. And my daddy sat me down and said, "Look, do you realize that people are watching you everywhere you go?" He
wow.
said, "You have to always remember Jesus' story. The only time that Jesus went in the sanctuary was to clean house." So, because I was worried about people judging me. Here I am, the pastor's kid. I'm out on the road with a famous rock and roll group. And these are wild kids. These kids were showing up. I mean, they were starting off rough. And then, it's the music industry. So, everything you can imagine, drugs,
Yeah.
promiscuous, everything,
Let me
alcohol.
let me stop you there. So you were saying your dad had a great influence, your Uncle Bill,
Yes,
and then here it is. All of those things guided you with your faith in Jesus Christ and
that's
kept you
right.
from going to the right or getting over so
That's
far
right.
in drugs and
Yeah.
promiscuous sin and all of those things that you kept hearing the leadership of your father and people
Yes.
your dad was told. He said, "Son, don't you know everybody's watching you?" And those
Yeah.
words kept echoing in your mind.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I like you talked about, knowing what God has for you and knowing if you stay on course
Hmm.
and keeping Jesus at front and center of your life, you'll end up way more successful and with less heartbreaks and things that will hold you captive in your life. Man, that's
Yeah.
an awesome testimony that
Yeah.
kept.
And
Yeah.
what I learned from that was I did go out on the road with them, of course, plastered all over. And I've been on national and international TV before, but I
Yeah.
was plastered all over TV in a different light. And
Mhm.
of course, we kind of broke up along the way. But what my father made me understand, he said, "Look, your walk is your testimony. You know, your ability to, you know, to still stand upright in the midst of all the challenges going on. That's your testimony, and people will see that more than they see your talent and your gifts. So of course, they'll celebrate you and recognize your talent, your gifts. You know, and I'm not naive. I know I'm talented and I know I'm gifted. I know I'm blessed. I know I'm favored by God. But I recognize that, you know, my walk, how I lived, and if my walk matched up with what I say I was doing and stuff like that, those are the things that began to have an impact. So I began to take very serious what my dad had taught me then. And I remember we brought New Kids on the Block to some place in Pensacola, but the people were crazy. I mean, they were going wild, you know, just like the Beatles would have come. And my daddy said, "Boy, if I could just get these people to holler out like that for Jesus just one time." Because they were screaming, man. Little girls were fainting all over the place, you know. You had,
Let me interrupt you. How did you get to work with that group? How did that come about? Divine hand of God,
of
or
course, of course.
yeah.
My third year, I had a rough year at Berkeley. Of course, number three is always kind of rough in any situation. You can make it through number three and number seven. You got it.
Oh, come on, man.
But I ended up, when I got to Boston, ironically, I ended up playing for an AME church there before I actually started teaching. I mean, I was going for my job teaching,
Wow.
but I moved to Boston on August the 4th, and my job didn't start until September, but they flew me up for some
Wow.
training and, you know, onboarding and stuff like that. So I ended up serving the Black church.
Wow. Come
And
on.
there was some people in the community who knew all about, they knew all about me before I got there, which I found to be odd. I was dumbfounded by that.
Yeah.
But they reached out to me, and there was a brother there named Maurice Starr who was in the community. And the community of Roxbury was kind of like the hood, Black community.
Yeah.
And they felt like I needed to have a relationship with him. Of course, Maurice was the founder of New Edition, and
Whoa. Come on,
and,
man.
and had done a lot of stuff. So there are a lot of people in the community, including Mr. Nash, who was the owned a bunch of radio stations there, and they made sure that I got around. Berkeley treated me as if I were Quincy Jones coming on their campus, you know, to
Wow.
come in the classroom. So I had relationships with all the folks in radio, television, and they brought me to Maurice, and Maurice had gone through a real serious battle with New Edition, you know, and the industry, the politics of the industry took New Edition from him, but they always credit him with having stood them up because Maurice put the group together. And he
Right.
had another group that he was trying to get organized called New Kids on the Block.
Yeah.
And the first couple of records he had done had failed. And I got on his production team. He said, "Look, I can use your help. I don't have a lot of money, but I can take care of some of your expenses. I can give you a little this and that." And that's what he did. And I agreed to help him. And ironically, right in the face of Berkeley, um, they were trying to kind of push me out of the way because, you know, I wasn't your typical, I'm a Negro from the South. So I speak my mind.
Yeah.
I grew up in civil rights.
Yeah.
You can't abuse Black folk over here and then take Black folk over and say, "Well, this is the greatest one, but that way he ain't worth nothing." You know, I grew up picking cotton. I'm gonna tell you who helped me. I tell this story. There was a gentleman named Wayman Davis who lived right across the street from my granddad, and his wife, I can't remember her first name.
Raymond Dave was our classmate. Yeah.
Yeah, well, his dad and his mama. So I was in the cotton field, man. Let me tell you just how God's favor is. And I knew in that moment, and I tell people that this was where the industry and the enemy knew the calling of my life then. I was about to put my hand on a cotton stalk. I didn't know, I couldn't see,
Yeah.
and there was a rattlesnake, a little tiny rattlesnake wrapped around that cotton stalk. Miss Davis said, "Craig, take your hand back. Don't put your hand on that. It's a snake. It's a snake." And
Yeah.
that woman snatched me as a child.
Right.
from that. And I realized in that moment, that woman saved my life. Because if I had put my hand on that snake, would have popped me so quick. They, of course, you know, you chop the head off of a snake. They got the snake, but they put me out. I couldn't go back in the cornfield no more. They put my little narrow behind out, man, because I was going to create some mischief for everybody. But I tied that to the enemy recognizing the potential of what God had ordained in my life then.
Yeah.
Because the enemy could have taken me out then, you know, none of what I experienced or my testimony, my witness would not have been possible. So fast forward to, you know, to that situation with New Kids on the Block. I ended up giving them several #1 records. They got nominated for Grammy. They got everything you could imagine, American Music Awards.
Wow.
They
I
even got
remember that.
couple of Soul Train awards, and ironically, I ended up being one of Don Cornelius' music directors through Soul Train because of them. You know, I'm serious, man.
Man, let me tell you something. This is ironic, you know, that God, because I had been watching. I said, man, let me reach out to my class. See, can I do an interview? But because there's still a lot of talent, gospel talent here in Atmore. You know, like Laverne Knight. You know, her dad and mom gone on,
Oh
but
yeah,
they're talented. And
yeah.
and what
Southern
I've been
Echo.
trying to tell them, I've been trying to reach out to a lot of talented people. I said, you know, the industry is open, but you gotta get there and put yourself out there. You know, why all this talent? Why just leave it here in Atmore when you got people around the world and then all over the United States want to hear and see you? But just being connected. Let me ask you this: how did it come to you? And how did you know that you had a gift that you were created? That how it was something that came to you as a child.
You
How did
really
cause
want to
me,
know? Mr.
yeah, I
Harris
want to
used
know.
to let me write drum cadences. I was 11 and 12 years old writing drum cadences. And we had a little band. We had a little band, man. We had a little band. I played piano. Somebody else played a little drum. Somebody else played a baritone horn. I can't remember the name of the boy. Patterson. One of Johnson. One of your buddies.
Yeah,
One of your brothers played the baritone horn. And one of
yeah.
the boys sang, and we had a little band. I could have probably been like 8 or 9 or something like that. We had a little band. And Mr. Harris literally let me start writing music, writing drum cadences.
Wow.
I did my first marching band arrangement when I was 12. It sounded like a train coming.
Hey man, but look here.
Mr. Harris would not let me move. He played the thing from beginning to, it was so embarrassing. I wanted to ride, I wanted to run. And then Mr. Harris went back through some stuff with the band, you know, back then, you know, kids snickering, boy, you know. And but that became the opening for my journey. And in high school, I had 2 little groups, Cupid with Soul, myself, Connie Targe, Damaris McCarvey, and Annette Thomas.
Yeah,
And
and that
we
she's still singing today.
and then we had another group, and I can't remember what it was called, with Mary Daly, Thomas House, and Bob Hubbard.
Yeah, Thomas Howard. That's how glad you
You know,
remember him. Yeah.
and we had a group. You know, we would do little things for school, you know, school programs and in the community. And then we had the Atmore Community Fellowship Choir. I was the youngest, well, kind of like the youngest one. I was the director. And you know, the twins.
Let me interrupt you. Go back to your gift. Would it just you could see it, you could feel it, or you just knew how to do it? How did that flow to you? I know you say it was a gifting of God, but how did it flow? Like when the music started, the creativity. Talk about that a little bit, because you know some young people are looking and they're flowing and they and not understanding how to flow with their gifting, the ability that God has given them. Talk about that.
Well,
It
God
was a
would,
feeling, or it was just a
yeah.
knowing, or how was it?
Well, see, so I'm old fashioned. I believe that you do anything, especially unto God, you have to be prepared.
Yeah.
So when everybody else is out doing everything else, you have to be practicing. You have to work hard to perfect your gift. I cannot tell you how many times I would play for Sunday school or play when people would be looking down their noses at me. And I had some church experiences right there in Atmore where people do that. They didn't want me to play. They didn't want me to get on the organ.
Hey man, I
They
had some
want,
experience in my ministry too, in this
they,
little small town. But
yeah.
glory
And
be
then
to God.
they want me. They would play all the instruments so loud. And I would just play on a little acoustic piano, and you couldn't hear
Yeah.
nothing. But in that, I knew that I needed to be faithful. That
Wow.
God could trust me. And
Wow.
I knew inside of me that the love that He and the passion He had given for me, I would continue. So when Miss
Wow.
Archery, Thelma Archery asked my parents if I could play for church, she didn't even ask me. She came and asked my parents.
Well, they're right up the street. You had to go through your parents, so you just walk right
and
up the
and
street. Yeah,
so
because they was on call, but y'all was on Park Drive, right up the street.
yeah,
Yeah,
and they said,
about 4 or 5 houses down.
and my daddy came and said, "Boy, you're gonna play for them children. So second my time." Miss Archer already asked it, and you hear the funny part. They're gonna give you $5 a Sunday. Man, that $5 are like $1,000 to me,
Yeah,
bro.
I know the best $5 you ever had, man. Golly, come on.
But I knew that she given me the opportunity to teach the children's songs, and she,
Yeah,
all of them, they were all just in that place, man, where her children, Rhonda, she even made Barry sing in the choir. Remember Barry? Yeah, all of them,
yeah.
And so I
Wow.
just kind of knew, and
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved it. And I tell her the turning point now.
Wow.
We used to play sandlot baseball. So we're back behind Miss Watts' house, our neighbor, Miss Watts. And somebody hit a
Man.
line drive. Me, I'm playing shortstop now. The ball coming 80 miles an hour. I saw the ball about 20 feet in front of me. I'm 11 years old. That ball hit me so hard. I must have ran 10 miles in a little circle right there. And then finally, I threw my glove down and ran home. And it took me probably 2 years to come back. I'm serious, man.
Wow.
Man.
Oh man.
Ooh,
Look here.
so I knew in that moment I was going to stick to my calling. So.
Stick to your call. Let's go right here. I know that we man, the time that flew by, we went about it out. But look here, I just want to bring up a couple of things right here. And I saw you're a Motown alumni, right?
Yeah. I was signed to Motown Records and have produced a lot of records for Motown people. And
Why
just to show you how,
why they call it Motown?
so
Why
Motown,
Motown?
Motown is where all of the great legendary artists were, and some of them are from Atmore. Mary Wells's family,
Yeah.
Diana Ross's family, they're all right there from Atmore, right there
Wow.
on 8th Avenue, which is now MLK. And the street
Wow.
that goes down to the graveyard, right there when you turn off 8th Avenue, going to the graveyard, right to
On
start with.
Johnson Street.
Yeah, turn off of 8th Avenue right there on that corner.
Wow.
But Motown produced some of the greatest artists, and I have been privileged to work with the majority of them. The Temptations. I still do work with the Temptations and the Commodores to this day. But
Come on, man. Come on.
you
Man, I'm
know,
sitting here with a legend, man. Come on.
Smokey.
Oh, man.
Smokey Robinson and the
Wow.
Miracles, on and on and on. I mean, just Martha Reeves. I talked to Miss Martha Reeves the other day, but they formed the Motown Alumni Association so that there would be this family place, just like Motown 25 and
Right.
then, Motown 50, all of these celebrations were like a family reunion. So they formed the Motown Alumni Association just so that we could kind of keep in touch with all of these artists that we've interacted with over the years. And Mr. Billy Wilson, I owe a debt of
Wow.
gratitude to, because he knew me. I knew he had been a drummer in one of the groups, but he was the founder. And I ended up serving. I'm on that board now. I'm on the Global Motown Alumni Association board. So usually I can reach out to most artists. Most people don't realize that the Jacksons still have a compound, in Eufaula. The
Oh,
Jackson
you follow
family.
Alabama?
Yeah. Catherine Jackson, all the Jacksons, Jermaine. And a lot of times you hear people say, I think I saw Michael Jackson. I thought I saw the Jackson 5. And they were somewhere coming through the airport. Yes. They, before they put that little private airport in there,
Yeah.
they would literally fly to Lake Eufaula. They would come through Montgomery or Birmingham, or come to Atlanta, and then they would drive them over, and that's true.
Wow.
So I've been on the board now for probably almost 15 years or better, more than 15 years now. Yeah.
Look, classmate, let me tell you something. I want to talk about the thing you did with Rosa Parks and Nelson Mandela, the tribute, unto
Yeah.
my feet, and
Yeah.
he unto my feet he gave, and
Yeah.
into my bosom he laid. But we're gonna cut it off. I know your time is precious, and we're gonna come back again and schedule a second interview with you. And
Oh
so
wow.
also we started our television network, WJM TV, and some of these documentaries and things that we can begin to put, and bring it here and bring notoriety back to some of the things that you've been, God has given you the opportunity to be a blessing to the world, to your community, and just have some things that we can put up and, somewhere like in the library. This is what Greg, this is what some people did here as a tribute to, growing up here and coming up in a Christian home, your dad being a pastor, you're talking about your uncle, Mr. Grissett, and you're talking about all these people that contributed to your life
Yeah,
and
Mr.
guided you in the
Harris.
grace
My
of God. Mr. Harris, Mr. McCarvey,
yeah.
Woodrow
My Aunt
McCarvey,
Helen and Uncle Murders.
your
Yeah.
Uncle Hell, and all of those great people.
Mm.
But we thank you for your time. We're going to conclude the interview right here, and we're going to do a follow-up because, man, I tell you, I was just like, when you started talking, and especially the part where you start talking about where you went through difficulty and then you knew God was telling you, not to come back home, stay the course. Cause
Yeah.
what, those times they be a character in a man or a woman
Oh
when you're
yes.
going
Yes.
through difficult
Yeah.
moments. And when you can hear
Yeah.
God's voice in those moments of difficulty, that's
Mm.
that's the time that character is being built. So
Oh yeah.
sustainability comes in those places.
Oh
And
yeah.
we,
Yes
yeah, come
indeed.
on now. I felt
Yeah.
that one. Oh, come on
Yeah.
now. That word.
Yeah.
So come on. I felt that one when I
Yeah.
said that. Glory be
Yeah.
to God. My
Yeah.
Lord Jesus.
Well,
And
what
so,
I'll
man,
say to
yeah,
you
go ahead.
is, if you have any young people that you want me to mentor, or even, I say this, production costs, production ain't cheap.
Yeah.
But I would even entertain the idea of trying to come together with somebody to help produce some of the young people. I'm not naive. I know that God has given me a huge level of influence as well as
Yeah.
the gifting. From me and my gifting, the influences come with it. So I don't
Yes.
have to call 9 secretaries to get through to the main secretary trying to get to somebody. Oh no, I ain't doing none of that. But
So you'll bypass the gatekeeper, huh?
yeah, yeah, I will, certainly be glad to talk with you and talk with whomever, would be willing. We'd have to put our heads together. And
Okay,
then
that's
I
great.
know
That's great.
I'm due for a visit back there soon anyway. So even to just come out to a church, I love to play, and
Yeah.
everybody knows I love to play. So I could.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, that would be awesome.
and
And
yes, I'll
yeah.
give you a part two. I don't mind giving you a part two.
Oh, come on now. I got for it too.
Yeah,
We thank God for it, man. Awesome. It's like I said, my classmate, Dr. Gregory McPherson, producer, educator, and composer. And so we so grateful and thankful that you were on Urban One 2018 and you heard it here. Another great episode. And the man of God is going to give me a follow-up, and he's reaching out, giving back to the community, and that we can give the word out. Say, hey man, you're looking to move forward in your career. Here's an opportunity. You're
yeah.
a
Oh
great
yeah.
man of God. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we with closing remarks, give us closing remarks, and we'll let you go.
Sure. Again, I want to say, first of all, what a privilege it is to be able to share in this moment with you in our community. I'm still at my homegrown and bound. When I come to Atmore, I still walk just about where I go, so you can know you just about. I look a little different, but a lot of times you say, "Who that old man walking down the street?" But I am very humbled by the fact, and sometimes when we get down, sometimes God will use moments just like this to remind us of His grace and His favor in our lives. And for every young person who desires, to be something special, it might not be in music, it might be in something else. You have to trust God and you have to submit yourself to God's will, because if you're out of God's will, And you can't hear everybody because a lot of times when you have giftings like mine, everybody and their grandmother will be in your ear and they bypass what God is saying and they start looking at you for their own benefit. And that's the one thing that freed me from being caught up in that because I realized that God had more for me to do and more for me to become rather than somebody else's, workman. And certainly we have to serve because that's a part of leadership. If you're not willing to serve, then you certainly are not deserving of leading, But by the same token, you have to make certain that you're in God's will and for His purpose. And I believe in divine ordination. It's no mistake that we're in this moment together. So thank you
Yes,
so
sir.
much for giving this privilege and this platform to say hello.
Yes, sir. Thank you, my classmate. Thank you, and God bless you. And like I said, we'll reach out and we'll schedule another interview.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, sir.
I'm your host, Wayne Johnson, and like I say, Urbanone 2018, and we thank Dr. Greg McPherson for giving us the opportunity to interview him, and we went way back and enjoyed it. Until next time, may God's richest blessing be upon you, and thank you, Mr. Greg, for giving me this opportunity. Until next time, take care. God bless you.
Likewise.
Thanks for watching the Urbanone 2018 show with your host, Wayne Johnson, the talk show dedicated to inspiring individuals from all walks of life. Every week, we have the privilege of hosting remarkable guests who provide profound insights on a wide range of topics. From local influencers to esteemed regional and national figures, they generously share their experiences and wisdom to spark positive change in our communities. We sincerely hope that today's episode has left you inspired and motivated. Join us again next week as we continue to uplift and empower. Until then, may you be blessed. From all of us at the Urbanone 2018 show with your host, Wayne Johnson.